Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. Today we will learn about metal forming. What is metal forming? Metal forming is a mechanical process used in manufacturing industry wherein material, mostly metals, undergo plastic deformations and acquire required shapes and sizes by application of suitable stresses such as compression, shear and tension. In the forming process, no material is removed. It is completely displaced and deformed into the required shape. Besides that, the physical shape of the material is permanently deformed. The force applied for deformation should be more than the elastic limit, but less than the unlimited yield strength of the metal. But brittle material cannot be formed. Examples of brittle material are bond, cast iron, ceramic and concrete. The process of metal forming, which is classified in various ways because it is based on the working temperature area, the type of formation style, the shape of the workpiece and product stage.
Metal forming process which involve a large amount of permanent deformation. There are two types of metal forming process: bulk deformation, sheet metal working. Today we will discuss about bulk deformation. Forging is perhaps outdoors metal working process. It is compressed between two dies. Open die forging and closed die forging are the category of forging. Open die forging, compression of billet between two flat die house. There are three stages involved, which are start of compression, partial compression, complete compression. Closed die forging. Impression die forging is performed in dies which has the impression that will impact to the workpiece through forming. In the intermediate stage, the initial billet deform partially give a bush shape. In the multi-stage operation, spread dice cavity are required for shape change. In the initial stage, uniform distribution of properties and microstructure are seen. In the final stage, actual shape modification is observed. Rolling. The thickness of the work is reduced by compressive force exerted by two rolls rotating in opposite direction. Bloom arrow into structural shape, blade arrow into bar and rod, slam arrow into plate, sheet and strip.
Next is extrusion. The work metal is forced or compressed to flow through a die hole to produce a desired cross-sectional shape. The die opening corresponds to the cross-section of the required product. It is basically a hot working process. However, for softer materials, cold extrusion is also performed. There are three types of extrusion. The first is direct or forward extrusion. Second, indirect or backward extrusion. Third is hydrostatic extrusion. Okay, let me explain how the direct or forward extrusion works. A metal billet is first loaded into a container having die holes. A ram compresses the materials and forcing it to flow through the die holes. A significant amount of friction exists between the billet surface and the container walls, as the billet is forced slide toward the die opening. In hot direct extrusion, the friction problem is increased by the presence of oxide layer on the surface of the billet. This oxide layer can cause defects in extruded product. Next is indirect or backward extrusion. This is a process where metal flows in the opposite direction of the ram. It is more efficient since it reduces friction losses considerably. The process, however, is not used extensively because it restricts the length of the extruded component. Hydrostatic extrusion. The billet is surrounded with fluid inside the container and the fluid is pressurized by the forward motion of the ram. In this process, the friction between container wall and billet is eliminated. This process is also applicable for ductile metal. Last but not least, wire and bar drawing is also one of the type in bulk deformation. Large quantities of wires, rods, tubes, and other sections are produced by drawing process, which is basically a cold working process. In this process, the material is pulled through a die in order to reduce it to the desired shape and size. In a typical wire drawing operation, one end of the wire is reduced and passed through the opening of the die, gripped and pulled to reduce its diameter. Tube drawing. This operation is used to reduce the diameter or wall thickness of the seamless tubes and pipes. Tube drawing is also similar to wire drawing, except that a manual of appropriate diameter is required to form the internal hole. The simplest method uses no manual and is used for diameter reduction called as tube sinking, but inside diameter and wall thickness cannot be controlled, so manual is required.
Next, I would like to talk about application in forming metal process. Firstly, ring rolling. Special rolling method for the manufacturing of seamless ring which related sub-methods such as radial ring rolling, radial axial ring rolling, and axial closed die rolling. Second, heat treatment. Method in which metallic workpiece, mainly steel piece, are temporarily heated for the target improvement of the material properties. Last one, application forming metal process in cool forming is forming process conduct significantly below the recyclization temperature of the material. This process includes typical upsetting and extrusion process. For example, for the production of bolts, nuts, and rivets, but can also include coining, cold hobbing, trick rolling, and last but not least, drawing process. For example, wire drawing, tip drawing, and profile drawing.
Okay, now I will continue the presentation about advantage and disadvantage of metal forming. Those advantages are less force is required, which means you don't have to put more pressure while doing this process. Second, it is quick and economical to be formed. Third, no stress formation. Next is refined grain structure, and the last one is it is suitable for all metal. Then, the disadvantage is poor surface finish. There might be wrinkles or torn part. The second point is very high tooling and handling cost. Third, less accuracy. And the last one is sheet and wires cannot be produced.
In conclusion, in metal forming processes, friction between the workpiece and the tools has both negative and positive effects. Through this video, we can learn and gain knowledge about the definition of metal forming, the type of processes, the application, and the advantages and the disadvantages clearly. I hope this can more or less be beneficial to those who watch the video. Thank you.